Cold case breakthrough. New DNA evidence resurfaces in the JonBenet Ramsey investigation.
I was reading the comments, and John, I'm not going to lie, I was so disheartened to see how many people out there still believe you had something to do with it.
And again, we're gonna do a different. You're welcome, Coffee. I would totally play it again if we weren't going to re-examine it. But like I said, he closed his eyes. He pronounced it different. The way what you heard and what I heard. All right. Thanks. I'm glad you're here, P. Weeskill. I don't know how to say her name, but I'm glad you're here. Thank you for finding our channel. Hit the like and subscribe, please.
Despite the fact, and let me repeat this loud and clear, that the Boulder police and everybody else involved in investigating the murder of your daughter, they have cleared you over and over and over again. And they've gone so far as to apologize for having left you under that umbrella of suspicion for so long, to the point where Patsy died before she was cleared from that umbrella of suspicion. So for anybody watching,
you hear what's happening here. Nobody was really cleared, guys, or we wouldn't be in this predicament right now. All right. I think we all agree on the fact that it was somebody that was close to him. There's no way they would have known his exact amount, that what his bonus was going to be for a ransom. There's no way they were going to come into the house and do this to a little girl and then go use your own paper and pen to write it. There's so many things, and that's what we're talking about today. All right, anybody that rolled in late, don't worry, we got you.
If you're one of the commenters, do your research before you make such painful comments about John and his family. Okay, that aside, I will say this because you brought it up when we, I think, spoke at CrimeCon, that you wish that they would ask you to re-interview. You wish that they would bring you in so that you could once again tell them everything that they might want to know. Is that, I know you got the meeting in January, is that on the agenda?
Well, we haven't put it on the agenda yet, but we're going to ask for a meeting again in January for an update. And they've always been, at least from Chief Redfern, very cordial in honoring that request. So, they've been fairly quiet about what they're doing. I think if I read between the...
Well, like I said, we just listened to that and they weren't able to clear the family with DNA evidence. I have heard them, and I hope you just heard that right now. See, Becky, they literally just said that she wasn't really cleared, but yet sometimes they have. I've heard them apologize to the family, and then another person comes into the case and they point their fingers at them. So they haven't been cleared by DNA just yet. Right. So we're going to see what changes in this. And she just said that regardless of what we've heard, everybody think again.
The lines of his latest report that he issued, there's some encouraging words there, and so I'm more optimistic than I've been in a long time. Certainly with new leadership. The problem with the old leadership, it was the old guard. These people that were in that police department had never investigated a murder. They decided on day one that we were guilty.
I mean, and do you hear that? What he's saying? He's telling us they didn't know what they were doing either. They focused so heavily on them without really having much evidence. They didn't look outside, and now they're doing that. Although I think what they're going to find is someone real close. If it's not him or Burke, you all tell me who else would have access to know where to come in, where to get paper, where to write like her, the same kind of writing as her mother. A lot of things. Too many coincidences. And in true crime, we don't believe in coincidences.
Literally day one. And that became the conclusion that they tried to fit the evidence to. And of course, they ran into problems because they couldn't fit the evidence.
Right. I should mention as well, just
thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our News Nation app.
And guys, I'm not trying to convince anyone of anything. I'm just laying out for you what I have, and that's for you to decide. There's people that think that they had nothing to do with it, and then there's people that feel like, damn, what did Burke do? All right, so here we go. Deception Detective just came out with this last night, and I always call for him. I called for him to analyze the Rob Reiner's son, Nick Reiner. We'll see if that happens. I've seen some interviews with Nick Reiner now, and it makes so much more sense. All right. There's no coincidences in crime, none in my opinion. I agree. And yeah, I wouldn't recommend anyone to hold their breath in a case this old, but it is refreshing to hear that they're doing something further. All right, let's go.
People out there still believe you had something to do with it, despite the fact, and let me repeat this loud and clear, that the Boulder police and everybody else involved in investigating the murder of your daughter, they have cleared you over and over and over again. And they've gone so far as to apologize for having left you under that umbrella of suspicion for so long. So for anybody watching, if you're one of the commenters, do your research before you make such painful.
I mean, we gotta know now, and yes, we do our research. I'm not sitting there calling John a piece of trash. I would never do that. I might run into him at CrimeCon, and I would hate to put my foot in my mouth and be blaming him, be that crazy YouTuber. I'm not blaming him at all. We're just talking this out. There's new, fresh evidence, and we're going over it. All right. So we're not going to bash. He is a victim in this case right now. He is the father of a little girl that was red rummed, and he's been doing this for the majority of his last half of his life. All right. And again, like I said, we're going to go to CrimeCon next year. I wouldn't want to run into him and be trash talking him and then be like, oh, sorry, I called you a bunch of bad names, but hello, sir. That's not who I am. I'm going to be real across the board. And yes, they have found new DNA evidence, Mab.
Comments about John and his family. Okay, that aside.
No, we won't leave that aside because unfortunately for Banfield and John Ramsey, I don't like being lectured, and that's not how DNA evidence works. So in today's video, let's break down this supposed bombshell new evidence in the JonBenet Ramsey case to figure out what's actually going on. I'm Deception Detective, an attorney trained in statement analysis. This channel.
And he's not going to be told what to do. You hear me, y'all? We're not going to bully DD at all. He's going to tell us what he thinks and how he's breaking it down. Yes, Mab, new DNA. As a matter of fact, the DNA evidence that is coming came from her panties, which means that JonBenet Ramsey was SA'd, either when the time of her death, before, or even it could have been a longer CSAM, right? She could have been regularly. Okay, yes, on the underpants. And again, you can go look at Ghost. It's got pictures of the garrote, her neck, the bruising, the panties, all the stuff that I can't show on YouTube is there. All right. And JonBenet, I'll tell you when Patsy, give me a second. I'll tell you when she passed away.
Exposes lies and manipulation. So if that's your thing, hit subscribe. For early access to new videos, over 60 exclusive videos, and other cool perks, consider becoming a channel member. Link in description. As I said in the intro, DNA evidence doesn't clear suspects by simply not matching them. That's not how deductive logic works. But just in case you're new here and haven't seen my earlier JonBenet Ramsey videos, or that logic doesn't make sense to you, don't worry, I'll explain it in a minute. For now, let's just get straight into this interview.
This month marks 29 years since 6-year-old JonBenet Ramsey was found murdered inside her own home in Boulder.
Yep.
That means nearly 3 decades of questions and investigations.
And yes, I absolutely agree with that. They didn't have enough evidence. They had a grand jury that was going to indict, and the DA wouldn't go forward because they didn't have enough evidence. All right. And Patsy Ramsey died June 24th, 2006. She was only 49 years old, guys. I'm 46 years old. She was 3 years older than me. She passed away at her father's home in Georgia after a long battle with recurring ovarian cancer. All right. So she never got to find out who, if she didn't know.
Investigative missteps and one of the most haunting unsolved cases in American history.
Yeah, I agree.
JonBenet was killed the day after Christmas, 1996. Strangled, her skull fractured, her body left in the basement. And despite some brief moments of hope over the years, no one has ever been charged in this crime. But there may be a new development. Boulder police have just said that they have new evidence in the case.
Thanks, Mab.
In their annual update, Police Chief Stephen Redfern said that JonBenet's murder remains a top priority, and he outlined new steps being taken to move the case forward. Take a look.
This past year, our detectives have conducted several new interviews, as well as re-interviewed individuals based on tips that we've received. We've also collected new evidence and tested and retested other pieces of evidence.
Now that's for you, Mr. Mab. You missed that in the beginning. I wanted you to hear that now. And Allison says, and I don't remember this, she went to the doctor weekly for UTIs. Guys, I'm telling you, at the time of JonBenet Ramsey and her being in the pageant, etc., she was so they sexualized her heavily in those pictures. If you go back to my last episode of JonBenet Ramsey that I did in March, all right, March of 2025, I showed you some of the most awful pictures that they didn't feel were awful. They were putting those out there. It's disturbing to see a little girl grabbing someone's belt loop, and the way that they posed her and positioned her. I guarantee you there was a lot of pedos at that time that were also looking. All right. So that's terrible too. I'm not into that stuff. And they were very disturbing images.
To generate new leads. Techniques and technology constantly evolve. This is especially true with technology related to DNA testing. Detectives continue to consult with outside experts from across the country.
And you're absolutely right, Jacqueline. Even if the DNA is on her underwear, it doesn't mean that they took her life. But what they do have is that garrote with hair in it. What they do have is a bunch of other key pieces of evidence. And if that DNA matches that evidence just from touching it, then they can absolutely charge for that. All right. She was 6 years old. And yeah, 6-year-old getting a UTI, that doesn't make sense. Unless if they were just giving her caffeine and soda and then that makes sense.
As well as our state and federal partners to strategize and explore all options when it comes to evidence testing.
I don't like them.
Police are not saying what that evidence is or who has been interviewed, but they are confirming that new and follow-up interviews have been conducted and that new evidence has been collected. They also say that older evidence has been retested using advances in DNA technology with help from state, federal, and outside experts. I'll get to that in a moment. Outside experts.
Before we get to those outside experts, and don't worry, I'll break down what they have to say, let's just bring up.
Oh, we don't worry about that, sir. And ladies, there's your eye candy for the day, all right? Mr. Deception Detective, not only is he pretty, but he's smart.